Our governor in Illinois here has been amazing, and he was wonderful when I reached out to him. He knew our story, and his chief of staff has reached out to the president's chief of staff and his members of the COVID task force to try and get this, at the top, because this has to be a part of, we can't just continue in the triage phase of this, where we're identifying the virus, mask and social distance, and we've got a vaccination. We know all these things.
Right.
All we're talking about right now is how many people are getting vaccinated, which is great and important, but we're not talking about how this is truly impacting people's lives, and how many will just never be the same.
It's more than just your output, more than a bike. When you hear your shout out, you know it's all right. Put on your magic pants and let's go. We're cruising into the Power Zone. Clip in, set yourself free. Come on and take a ride with me. You know what you need to know and what's it all about. Everything you need, it's on the Clip Out.
Welcome to the Clip Out Podcast, episode 205. This is Crystal O'Keefe.
And this is Tom O'Keefe. Hi.
Hi.
Are you excited? It's like homecoming eve.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, normally we'd already be in New York City right now, so giant buzzkill, to be honest.
Do you open your presents on homecoming eve or homecoming morning?
Well, if I was there, they would just be the presents that kept on coming all weekend. Now it's just, I mean, I think it's going to be cool. Don't get me wrong. Like, I think that as a virtual event, I think it's going to be a good one. So I don't mean to be like down for everybody. It's just, it has been so exciting in the past, and to not be able to go and see all the people in person, it's just not the same.
But the thing to keep in mind is that most people don't go.
Absolutely. And so this is great because it brings those people in. And I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. And I think that is cool.
Yeah. But I will say, since we have gone, they were a blast. And it is a shame not to be able to get to do it. So it does feel, I think, a little anticlimactic for the people who have gone in the past. But it's the reality of the situation. And I bet you, no matter what, moving forward, there will be some sort of virtual component so everyone can take part.
I think so too. I do.
I think is smart.
I do too. Yeah, absolutely. It needs to be that way.
So so if you're listening to this on Saturday or Sunday, it's like, well, this is recorded before homecoming. So whatever homecoming news has broken, like it hasn't happened for us yet.
Yes.
It's like time travel.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Since when we did homecoming in person, I was off of work. So we would be like recording while we were there.
Totally.
Which was was even, brought the excitement level up too.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So but we should probably segue before we get into stuff. Just remind people that our Tonal Contest is almost over.
Yes.
And May 3rd is the last day you can enter. So if you would like to win a tonal,
your time is running out.
The end is nigh, and it all goes to a good cause. It goes to the Make-A-Wish Foundation of the Greater Bay Area. And since Tonal was kind enough to donate not only the tonal but all the smart accessories and 1 year membership. So you got everything, and you're set for a year. And so that means 100% of the proceeds can go to the Make-A-Wish Foundation. So if you just swing on by theclipout.com/winatonal, very simple.
Very simple.
And you can purchase entries for as little as $5. And the more money you spend, the more entries you get. And it also increases with each dollar amount. So you get more value of entries as you spend more money. So,
exactly.
And again, it all goes to a great cause, to Make-A-Wish Foundation. So swing on by theclipout.com/winatonal for your chance to, win
a tonal.
It's kind of right there on Front Street. So So what, pray tell, do you have in store for people this week?
Well, we're going to talk about our newest Power Zone Instructor. We've got some stuff to cover with John Mills. We've got a Dr. Jenn segment this week. And this is a special question from our Susan Burton that I've been dying to air. So I'm super excited about that. And then we also are going to be talking to MetPro with a nutrition question. Mm-hmm. There's going to be instructor news. There's going to be celebrity sightings, past guest updates, and all kinds of fun Peloton facts.
Awesome. Well, before we get to all that, shameless plugs, don't forget we're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find your podcasts, you can find us while you're there. Regardless of your platform of choice, be sure and follow us so you never miss an episode. You can also, if you would be so kind, leave us a review. That way people know we're worth checking out, if that's what you think. If it's not what you think, shut up. So we have a new review.
Oh, we do?
Yes, we do.
Yay.
This is from Mr. J Bean 1.
J Bean 1.
Yes.
Jelly Bean.
It just says, the best. That's
Aww.
the headline. I look forward to Fridays and listening to this podcast. Crystal and Tom are hilarious, and the guests always add such good input. Keep them coming, and see you on the leaderboard. And the leaderboard name is Mr. J Bean. That's MRJ Bean.
Yay!
So, thank you.
Thank you very much for the kind review. Really appreciate you taking the time to do that.
Absolutely. And you can also find us on Facebook, facebook.com/theclipout. While you're there, like the page, join the group, and of course, check out our YouTube channel where you can watch the show in video glory at youtube.com/theclipout. And of course, sign up for our newsletter with all the links and pictures. They just get sent right to you. If you can't remember the address for how to win a tonal, there'll be a link in the email. You can sign up for that at theclipout.com. So there's all of that. Let's dig in, shall we?
We shall.
Breaking news.
So we have a new Power Zone instructor.
Yeah, Ben Alldis. He is officially joining the Power Zone team. Now, for those of you who have been paying close attention, you will know that Ben Alldis mentioned 2 years ago in an Instagram, a live Instagram, whenever somebody asked him if he was going to be a Power Zone instructor, he said, maybe it was only a year ago, he said, watch this space.
Ah.
And so it's been a long time in the making. But it's finally here. His first Power Zone ride is April 30th, 2 p.m. UK time, 9 p.m. Eastern.
Awesome.
Yep.
So very exciting. I know people always want more of those rides, and they also want some variety. So it's not just kind of the same handful of instructors. So it's nice to get some new blood in the mix to give people some choices.
It is, and that'll be number 5 for the Power Zone instructors. Yep.
That's a lot.
It is.
Run, lift, and live with John Mills.
So joining us today via the magic of ZoomTube is John Mills. Hey, John, how's it going?
Doing great. How's it going?
Good.
We're both tired.
Great day. Whenever I talk to you guys, it's all a good day. So, I'm not working. When I'm not working, it's all good.
That's true. That's true. And it's always fun. We always get in a better mood when we talk to you.
That's right. It's all good. This is a great topic.
It is a great topic.
Yeah. So just some interesting take on some competitors, or a competitor, I guess in this case, SoulCycle, and their quest to be a comeback story. I think their goal here is if they stage a good enough comeback, they might get a free Peloton.
Hey, you remember the days when you go, who are the competitors of Peloton? And there'd be like, it's Flywheel and SoulCycle.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, I don't know, it might be Echelon and
Hush.
And Nautilus. All right, maybe not Echelon. Nautilus and Icon.
Yeah.
Now no one confuses it now.
No.
They're like, no, it's Nautilus and Icon.
Yeah.
Confuse it.
That's
and
a true
this story
story.
kind of talks to the evolution that I think kind of got us to
here.
That.
I think that this is an aptly named title of an article. For those of you who aren't watching, the name of the article is called SoulCycle and the Wild Ride. And they've had one. Also, where is Town and Country? Is that like where SoulCycle is from? Do you know? I don't know why I'm asking you this. Clue. You live on the East Coast, so like all those states are like this big and they're all next to each other. So I just assume you know them all. It's like, hey, you live in the state of Connecticut. Do you know John Smith? I know he lives in the state of Connecticut. Yeah.
That was the weird thing when I moved out here. You drive an hour and a half and you might have driven through 3 states.
Right.
Like that. I'm from California. That don't work like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
See, around here in St. Louis, it's like if you drive 5 minutes, you've driven through like 6 municipalities.
True story.
Each one of them will write you a ticket if your plates are expired.
Yes.
Right? Like it's
also true story.
Yeah. Like,
oh man. That's a problem.
It's a big problem.
Check your plates before you come to Missouri.
But so I guess so does it go into what their plans are, or is it just kind of like a background on what occurred?
Is it all about the past? Or is it the future?
Well, it kind of, a couple things. Yeah, it goes into future as well, which is the interesting part to me. So I'll kind of spend less time on the past. But it starts with the past of they were the darling, and their instructors were like celebrities. And then, everybody just became like into them like a cult, and celebrities were endorsing them. It kind of sounds like Peloton right now.
Does it feel like foreshadowing?
Right. They're talking about, and then they're like, oh man, then they hit a couple bumps because there are these scandalous type of things coming out. And then right at the same time these scandalous things come out, the pandemic hits, and they were just about thinking about doing a at-home bike, even though they weren't too worried about Peloton because they were doing so well. They're just thinking about it. Then the pandemic hits, and then the at-home bike becomes an important thing. But they've struggled with the at-home bike, and they can't get sales with it. And then they had the Varus platform, and then Equinox went, no, you need to use this platform. Then they had to change it to Equinox Plus, digital platform. And it just talks about all this craziness that happened after they were way up here. And then all this crazy stuff happens. That's what the article's about.
Gotcha.
But in the end,
what's the plan?
Right. So in the end, I was doing that. I was like, well, so where are they going? So I found it interesting at the very end. They're like, well, this analyst says that 70 to 95% of the retail ecosystem is brick and mortar. It's going to go back to brick and mortar. So that's going to include fitness. So they're all right. Like basically saying everybody's going back to the gym anyway. So they're going to be okay.
Well, I guess whoever wrote this article hasn't been reading the latest reports, because that is not what studies show. That is not what studies show at all.
Yeah, that's where I came to at the end of it. I was like, that's what? Is there another sequel to this book? That's the end?
Is that like when you try to speak something into existence? They're like, let's just write it down. And then if it happens, it was because of us. So, yeah.
Right. Or is it, oh, we're trying. And then they're like, well, that was never going to work anyway because they couldn't get that. And
a
then
lot of
like,
people
well,
don't know this, but town and country is from the Latin, meaning wishful and thinking. I mean, if you think about it, like the gym has for years treated people like absolute shit, right? Like, I mean, with these like Byzantine agreements where you can only quit if you send them a notarized letter on parchment between the hours.
I went through that.
Yeah, between the hours of 3 and 4 on a full moon. Like it's like
it was worse than that.
Yeah,
I couldn't go down to the gym and cancel.
Yeah,
right.
They said, well, if the certain particular role or manager is there, maybe.
Yeah.
But then that person's never there.
Right.
And so I had to like mail it in.
Certified mail. You have to do certified mail.
They called the company Equinox because it was the only time you were allowed to resign from the gym. That's why it was called that. So I mean, like, I think a lot of people, like, they just don't like the gym anyway. Like, the gym has been mean to them for years. And so I don't think very many people, I would think most people wouldn't feel bad about leaving the gym anyway because they're kind of douchey.
I feel like maybe you have a harsher point of view on gyms than the average bear.
I don't know.
I don't know. I think maybe all of that frustration that you feel about working out just might be a little pointed at the gyms. But I don't know that I agree that they're that angry. But I do think that the the convenience of working out at home, the time saving, the money saving far outweighs the complications of going to the gym. And so I'm not saying no one's going back to the gym, but I think that most people are staying home.
I think especially if you've already made a major investment in a piece of fitness equipment and you're using it more frequently than the gym, I don't know why you'd be like, I want to sign back up.
The only exception in my mind is a person who does swimming, whether they're a triathlete, or they just like to swim.
Yeah, there's like equipment. Some people, they don't want to just spin, right? Like, I get that.
Right.
But yeah. So then there was another article while we're talking about SoulCycle, or was this kind of all bundled together?
It was all bundled together.
It was from CNBC.
And before we jump to this one, I do want to talk about John's prediction. No, I can't even say it was a prediction. I don't want to put words in your mouth about the last article, because you asked some questions when you posted it about Peloton compared to SoulCycle.
Well,
I'll let you put it your way.
I thought, you see kind of in technology where I'm from, in my industry, you see these things just kind of reoccur. You see these moments of deja vu often. And so in this industry, I'm thinking, is this a moment of that where Peloton could look back and kind of learn from what these folks did, because they're at the point now where they were at, and stop themselves from this reoccurrence and deja vu moment? Is this like an inflection point, right? That was my question. It's basically, are they potentially on a similar path if they don't pay attention to what just happened?
If they don't pay attention, sure. But I think my opinion, my answer to that is that Peloton's culture seems a lot healthier than SoulCycle.
Yeah.
So I feel like they have that going for them that SoulCycle did not. But that's just my opinion. But I thought it was a great question.
Yeah.
And I wanted to point it out.
Yeah, just because you're top of the heap doesn't mean you're going to stay top of the heap. But I think when you're up there, it's easy to think,
we're all good. You can't touch us.
And nothing can ever stop us. And, ask Sears how that works out.
Exactly.
Right? Like,
exactly.
Right.
I mean, when I was a kid, the idea that someone would that Sears would cease to matter was,
ludicrous.
Right.
Yeah. It was just ridiculous. And here we are.
That's kind of the perspective I was coming at it with, especially also since this all happened to SoulCycle right at the 8-9 year mark. And I think Peloton is coming up on the 8-9 year mark, right? So that maybe there were these similarities that maybe posed a question without an answer. I was just like asking the group.
John's like, it's not my fault.
Yeah. He's like, it's a question, not an answer.
There's a question.
Yeah.
Just a question.
So the other thing we were going to talk about, though, John, is that you found another article talking about the new CEO of SoulCycle. And you had an opinion about her one-liner that she had.
The new CEO was brought in after the old CEO was fired, I guess. I think. I don't remember if she was fired or if she resigned. But anyways, over a scandal. So they brought the new CEO in December. And there's a statement in this article. The article is basically asking questions about this new CEO is coming into some turmoil. How are they going to handle it?
Yeah.
And a question was posed to the CEO about, so you got these, these issues and all these scandals and, how are you going to handle it? What's up with that? And her response was kind of benign. It was like, yeah, I read about some things, I guess we might have some cultural things we might want to deal with. And I'm going, you think?
Wow.
That's really?
I mean, that was
an understatement of the year.
Right. And that's worth noting. And you know why that's worth noting? Because right there, I'm going to make a bold prediction. They're not going to fix this. It's not going to get better, because if you can't own your mistakes and you can't own what the company has done, you can't fix it. That's a Dr. Philism right there.
Well, especially when they were that prevalent and well documented and well publicized. Like, these aren't secrets that you can sweep under the rug. A quick Google search will bring them up forever now. So you might as well live side by side by saying, I'm the new person and I'm against that. Like, I don't
thought
understand.
She was going to just come out hard, right?
Yeah.
She was like, I think I read about something like that.
Well, you should have read hard, honey, before you took that job.
I was like, we read about it too.
Oh my word.
Okay.
Yeah. So while we're kind of
talking competitors.
Yeah, talking competitors. Jay-Z invested in a fitness company.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, now, so he also is in another company. What's that one? That climber.
The
climber
climbing thing.
Yeah. So Beyonce is all up in Peloton. Jay-Z is over here in the climber, and now he's this one. What is this thing called? Marcy Venture Partners. Oh, it's his
Lit
venture
Method or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yes,
Is that
Lit
what it is?
Method.
Lit
Yes.
Method.
Yes, you're right. Lit Method, and it appears to have like a combination of things going on here. Like it can be a rower, it can be an ergonomic, what do they call those things? Ergometer. And also be able to do some strength things, you know. So I don't know.
Like it might also be like an air compressor.
It does look like that. It's actually a water rower. That's why it looks like that. That red thing.
Yeah.
Is
Take
like
it
where
out
it
to your
holds.
car, pump up your tires,
Makes coffee.
do stuff like that with it.
What is that?
The water boils in there, and you
Yeah.
can eat some hot dogs and all that.
Is this thing also a bong? I mean, it is Jay-Z. It's a fair question.
I'm just saying, they got this thing doing like 18 different things.
I learned from John. I'm just asking questions.
I just answered the question.
Is it a ball?
That's what I'm saying. I don't know. I'm just saying. I mean, it's interesting. You know what I really think? I think connected fitness is so hot. If you just come out with anything that's really nice looking and pretty and does a couple things, you're probably going to make a lot of money.
Well,
Yeah,
That's
I
what I
agree.
think.
yeah.
Yeah.
And this thing does a whole bunch of stuff. It's a lot of stuff, including rowing. The rowing is, I guess, the core piece.
Well, the rowing's been really hot right now. Everybody's rowing out the rowers. Like they're popping up everywhere.
See,
so.
I think the problem with this thing
is
and
it doesn't have a screen.
and I'll call it a thing,
Okay.
is I look at it and I can't figure out what the hell you're supposed to do with it, right? Like,
Yeah.
like when I look at an elliptical,
You know what you're supposed to do.
I know what I'm supposed to do on an elliptical. When I look, but like this is one of those things that wants to reconfigure into so many different things that you're just like, I do what now? I put my hand here and I put my other my foot over there, and then I touch this, and then there's a rope, and I like.
You're overwhelmed by it, is what you're saying. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I'm.
Are you getting sports related panic?
I am. I'm just like, there's too much. There's too much. Right? Like the Tonal does a lot of different things, but it's really easy to look at. You're like, there's two arms and a screen, and I pull on shit. I got it.
Right. That's it.
Yes. This is like, it's all different angles, and here's wrapped around her ankle. What? What are we doing?
That's the strength component, honey.
That's gonna go pulling me back across the room like a goddamn slingshot.
That's a slingshot.
I'm gonna let go, and water's gonna spray at me from that big tube. What am I on a ride? Scared of this thing.
All right. Well, no one in this room is a fan.
I think they're going to make a bunch of money, though.
Me too.
I think Jay-Z is going to back it. I think it's going to make a lot of money, but I think it's going to end up being like fattish kind of. That's my guess.
No, I agree. Especially because it doesn't have any like screen. There's no one giving you any direction. That's my point here.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't really do the connected fitness part of it, right? It's not connected.
Right.
It's not connected, guys.
It's like that thing you used to put on the back of your door.
Yeah.
And you use
the
it like
thing with the
twice,
thing.
and then it snapped back and popped you in the head,
And you
you're
threw it
like,
away in anger.
You're like, F this stupid thing.
Yeah.
I'm done. And it's like, I think it'll get a lot of investors. I don't think it'll make a lot of money.
I agree.
Yeah.
Like Tidal.
Right.
Oh,
You know?
Yeah.
Like how many people listen to their music on Tidal? It's pretty much Jay-Z and Neil Young. That's
Aw,
it.
That's all. That's sad.
But it looks nice.
It does look nice. It complicated for Tom, but nice.
It's too much.
Okay.
Too much.
All right. I didn't mean to stress you out, babe.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Sorry. I got panicky. Well, John, thank you very much for joining us. Until next week, where can people find you?
They can find me on Facebook in my Run, Lift, and Live grouper page. They can find me on Instagram, Run, Lift, and Live, or runliftandlive.com.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Talk to you guys later.
Talk to you later.
Bye, Grandpa Shark.
Bye.
Getting the psychological edge with Dr. Jenn.
So joining us today via the magic of ZoomTube is Dr. Jenn Mann, licensed marriage, family, and child therapist and sports psychology consultant. You may know her from VH1's Couples Therapy with Dr. Jenn or VH1's Family Therapy with Dr. Jenn, her long-running radio show, The Dr. Jenn Show, and she's written 4 best-selling books, including The Relationship Fix, Dr. Jenn's 6-Step Guide to Improving Communication, Connection, and Intimacy, and she loves her some Peloton. Dr. Jenn, hi.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here.
So as you know, we've been pulling questions from our clip out community, and we have a special one from, and I say it's special because one of our listeners, Susan Burton, she emailed this one, and so it's a little long, so I'm going to summarize, but I'm going to try to still get the feel of what she was asking. Okay, so she says her question is about feeling overwhelmed with Peloton content and her feeling of needing to do it all. So she's been around since 2014 and she's watched the evolution, but now it's reached a point where she can't keep up. There's new series, new artists, new features, new badges. You get the picture. But here's where it gets a little deeper. She says, I want to find a level of participation I can feel involved in, but at the same time not feel down on myself because I miss some things. If I have a 12-hour car drive with my husband, it's time for us to connect and have great conversations, but also I have one ear pod in while on the app doing seated yoga in the passenger seat or a gas station stretch or a rest stop meditation to get my blue dot and keep my streak.
Well, there are worse things you can do at a rest stop.
But I have to say, I feel for Susan. I relate to her OCD and her need for the checkbox. I totally get it.
And then just to add, she said even as she writes this email, she had to pause it because she got a notification that Andy and Rebecca Kennedy were going live talking about string stacks. So she had to stop the email to go listen to the live. And she says she realizes this is not normal or healthy. And are you laughing because she's laughing? Why is this so important to me?
I'm totally laughing, but I am laughing because I relate to some degree. I think that I haven't taken it to this level, but I really get the anxiety that one feels when there's this sense of I need to complete this. And, I think that especially in kind of the world of COVID that we live in, whatever we are, we've become more of. And if you're an anxious person, you probably become more anxious. If you're an OCD person, you become more OCD. If you're a depressed person, you become more depressed. And so I think that, and for a lot of us, especially in the world we live in right now, I know for me, I speak from experience on this, that my Peloton workouts have been something that have really helped me get through this stressful time. But I do think that Susan has crossed the line from this being a healthy, wonderful outlet into a more OCD kind of obsessive nature. And what we want to do is help Susan deal with the feelings that she's avoiding while obsessing about Peloton. And look, I would never suggest that she not get her check mark. I'm not that. I could never do that to someone. But what I will suggest is that she really reevaluate her relationship with exercise and what she's choosing. And I'm all for her getting a check mark every day, but I don't think it's healthy for her marriage or her relationships to have one earbud in doing a meditation while talking with her husband. I think that she needs to make a commitment to herself that when she's going to Peloton, she's going to Peloton. And when she is going to be with her loved one, she's going to be 100% present or as close as she can. And in all of this, that she's going to examine her anxiety and really look at what else can she do to address her anxieties, whether it is therapy or reading some books about anxiety or OCD or talking to some friends or having some good outlets that she is not really utilizing right now. But Susan needs more outlet than just Peloton to kind of handle this anxiety. And I think that there also needs to be kind of a little grace. She needs to give herself some grace when it comes to, sometimes you may start a series or a challenge and maybe you don't complete it or you don't get the gold medal or, sometimes you start something, you're like, I really loved Kendall's first 3 movie rides, but the fourth one just doesn't call to me. So I'm going to give myself the room to not do it and do something else that calls to me. And I think that Susan needs to do that. It sounds like she's just kind of moved into kind of obsessive land, and we want to get her out of obsessive land so this can still be a wonderful, healthy outlet for her.
Yeah, no, the movie rides, I think, is a good example in terms of, or an analogy, is that, like, you wouldn't say, I have to see every movie, right? So it stands to reason that maybe there's a movie ride you don't care about. Maybe she's doing horror movies. You don't care about horror movies, so why do the movie ride just to do the movie ride?
I think it's not just obsessive. I think there's this other piece of it, because I totally, like you, Dr. Jenn, I understand where she's coming from, and I end up having to skip a lot of things that other people in the community get to do because I feel like people have like one group that they really glob onto, or one instructor. And because I'm in so many groups and I'm doing so many things related to Peloton, I often have to skip most of it because I can't do any of it all the way. And I feel really guilty. I feel bad. And it makes me miss that part of back at the beginning of Peloton whenever that was the pure joy I got. So I feel like that's part of it too. She wants to be with her friends.
I think that it also speaks to that we have to kind of choose what's important to us. Like there are challenges that I have done that I'm like, it's important to me to complete X number of hours of training for kind of the annual challenge. Or it's important to me that, like, the first challenge I did was Emma's Crush Your Core. And that was something that I love, Emma's Crush Your Core. Like, I'm begging Emma to do a part 2. But for me, at least, what I've done to help kind of find a balance is that I may pick 1 or 2 things that I say, like, yeah, this is important to me. But then for something like a movie ride, like, that's supposed to be fun.
Right.
And if it doesn't call to you, like, that's okay. You don't have to finish that. Like, that's not what's important in your life. What's important is that you take the ride that calls to you and it brings you joy. And there's so many great rides. And and you've heard me talk about this before, I'm really of the belief that we end up in the class we're supposed to be in, and we end up hearing the messages we're supposed to hear. I can't think of a time where I did a class where I was like, yeah, this is really not what I needed to hear today. There's always something where I'm like, that was the nugget. Like, that was the thing I needed to hear, or that was the stretch that my body needed, or like, that was the song that my soul needed to hear today. There's always something. And I think that we have to kind of have more of a kind of a philosophical shift. And it's very easy. Like you're talking about, there are different communities. So there are some communities on Peloton, and I admire them. Like there's one person in particular that I follow, and you probably know who it is, but she's basically like an ultra Peloton athlete, where she will do, today I decided to do 1,000 miles of on my bike today. And like, I did, 20 hours straight. And I'm like, wow, that's amazing. Like, I will never do that. I don't aspire to do that, but more power to you, honey. Like, I bow down to you. And I think we have to be careful that we don't get sucked into kind of the wrong community. And when I say wrong, I put that in quotes, because a community that moves us from a healthy relationship with exercise into an obsessive relationship, or one where it makes us feel bad. And it's important to be mindful of who we follow, what hashtags we use and we follow, which parts of the community we connect with, and also to give ourselves a break sometimes. I think that's really important.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Definitely.
And I just real quick, I would say that you also, it's counterintuitive, but she also runs the risk of ending up in a place where she decides not to do any of it. Like
exactly. Or she burns herself out.
Right.
Yeah.
Like related to nerd stuff, but in the 90s, Dark Horse Comics came out with Star Wars comics, and they were really good. And then they started coming out with like 3 or 4 titles a week. And I'm like, and I was getting them all. And then I was just stopped. One day I just like take them all off my list, because that's just too much. I'm not spending $100 a month on Star Wars comics. There's a lot.
Totally.
And so I It can make you go the other direction.
It can.
Yeah.
It can.
And also with exercise, it can make you injure yourself.
Yes.
And then you're really out for the count.
I could have got a paper cut.
Yeah, you could have.
You
could have, and that would have been terrible. I could have got infected.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it was in grave danger.
Could have been
Definitely.
hospitalized.
Yeah.
It could have been very serious.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. Until next time, where can people find you?
You can find me on social media at Dr. Jenn Man, 2 N's on Jen, 2 N's on Man, and my weekly column in InStyle magazine called Hump Day with Dr. Jenn.
Clip out.
The Peloton blog this week featured how to build a yoga-focused workout routine.
They did. And I really appreciate this particular subject because it talks about how to incorporate yoga, which is something that when you're used to doing a lot of cardio or if you're just a hard driving person, and I think a lot of type A people go to Peloton, like they just are called to Peloton. You want to do the yoga because you want to relax and you want to do the healthy things like mobility and, really work on your body, but you don't know how to add it in.
Right.
Are we talking 1 day a week? Are we talking 3? Like, I don't know.
I feel like a lot of people feel like yoga doesn't count as exercise.
I agree.
And they feel like, well, I'm here to get fit or lose weight or whatever, and this is a waste of my time.
I agree. They want to do it.
Right.
What do you always say? I want to have had done that. I don't.
Yes.
How do you say it?
I enjoy having done it, but I don't enjoy doing it.
Yes. I think that's how people feel about yoga.
Yeah.
But the thing is that it's really good for you. And it's like you can enjoy the yoga, the act of doing yoga, if you can work it into your routine.
Yeah.
And the other thing is I think it's because so many of us are go, go, go. We're not able to enjoy it until we learn how to really connect to our mind.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's an important practice to actually get there. But the whole point of that is that this article has a lot of really good tips on how to go about doing that.
Okay. And if you'd like to check that out, that's over on the Peloton blog, or there will be a link to it in the newsletter that goes out this week from us. So it'll be nice and easy for you to track back down. And then Peloton is celebrating Asian and Pacific Islander Heritage Month.
They are. And if you got a chance to look through this, it has a whole bunch of stuff that they're doing. There's going to be classes that are going to be themed with all kind, like music. There's going to be they're going to be highlighting different things within the community, but also they're going to donate $100,000. Could you scroll back down because I missed the name of it? I want to make sure I get it right. To the Asian American Federation, which is an organization that furthers justice, wellness, and opportunity for Asian American communities. So they already had an existing partnership, but they are building on that.
Awesome.
And then there's going to be, like I said, special classes, and there is a brand new drop coming that they worked collaboratively, and by they, I mean Aditi, Emma, and Sam worked to have a collection made that it kind of features the florals and custom prints that are inspired by the Asian and Pacific island like flora
region,
and fauna.
yeah.
So the cool thing is this is all coming. Now, the confusing part is the blog says the collection drops next week, which
Okay.
is May. Then there is the instructors are already wearing it, and it says it's dropping today,
Gotcha.
meaning Wednesday, April 28th. And if that's the case, I have a feeling it's going to drop at the UK tonight, drop in the US on Wednesday or Thursday the 29th in the morning. If that's a big if. There's also an email blast that went out about it, and it said coming soon.
Gotcha.
So your guess is as good as mine.
Make of that what you will.
Sometime in the next 4 days,
Yeah.
we're going to have an awesome collection, and it is gorgeous.
Uh-oh.
Gorgeous.
Oh,
I
no.
cannot wait for this drop.
I can wait.
I know you can. I'm really sorry, Tom. Things will be bought.
So there's a cool kind of addendum to the Ride to Greatness stuff they got going on.
Yeah, there is. So since Ben, Aldous, and Hannah Frankson have been team captains, they have been interviewing people and on Instagram. And Hannah Frankson has been interviewing different Olympians this week.
Oh, okay.
So if you missed out on that, go over to Hannah's Instagram and catch up on those because they're really cool interviews. And if you haven't already checked it out, make sure that you don't miss the second game this weekend, Ride to Greatness game, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
That's happening this weekend at 1:30 Eastern on Saturday, right in smack dab in the middle of homecoming. I'm sure that is not a coincidence.
Yes.
Clip out.
So joining us today via the magic of ZoomTube once again is Angelo from MetPro. It's kind of fun to say. It's a little rhyme.
From MetPro.
Here to answer your nutrition questions. Hello, Angelo.
I love being here with you guys. Thanks for having me.
I feel like I'm Dr. Seuss. Hello, Angelo from MetPro.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, careful. I might make you eat green eggs and ham.
Oh.
I could do the eggs.
I was there with the reference for you, Tom. But that's as good as you're going to get.
Ham
That's
is
my
like-
drop the mic and go home deal.
Ham is like one of the few meats I don't like.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I'm with you.
But we have other questions from our actual listeners, and they
Not Dr. Seuss related?
No.
No, not Dr. Seuss related.
Okay.
Donna Watwood-Ecker would like to know, what kind of commitment is needed? Is this something you need to do forever? If not, is the transition to help you return to life without your coach? Is there a transition?
So that is a great question, Donna. Okay. So there's kind of opening a whole Pandora's box here, but to get to the heart of it, it's the answer is yes. We're going to help you get to where it's sustainable and you can apply the principles ongoing. Now, right out of the gate, we do ask more of a person as far as focus and intent, because we're trying to really identify the levers and the dials for their unique metabolism. So we're going to be tracking things really closely. But over time, it will transition into more of a principled approach, especially when we've done it the right way and got your metabolism to a good place where it's just humming along, it's functioning the way you want it to, instead of you trying to quickly jump and play second fiddle to what it's doing or react to what it's doing. And here's specifically what I'm talking about. The problem is all lies in losing weight, if that's your goal, if that is your goal, in an unsustainable way. And here's what that means to me. And that means I lost weight, but I had to do something radical. I had to practically starve myself, or I'm doing all, just fruit smoothies, or I've cut out all of one macronutrient, or only eaten this, 2-hour window, or on days that start with the letter T. I mean, it's not saying that stuff doesn't cause weight loss. It does, but it's not sustainable. So people ask me and say, well, no, I'm at my goal weight. And I say, no, you're not. You're not at your goal weight. I said, yeah, I got on the scale today. I'm at my goal weight. I said, no. You're at your goal weight when you're actually eating normal, and that's how much you weigh. Until then, we're still en route. And because of that, people are surprised to hear me say, somebody says, well, I want to weigh 175 pounds, or I want to weigh 100. It's just whatever the number is. I said, okay, you want to weigh 150 pounds? Perfect. I'm going to diet you down to 146. Like, well, I don't need to weigh 146. I want to weigh 150. Like, I know you do. But by the time I get you to 150, you're going to be at the lower end of intake, because we're going to have taken you through metabolic revving cycles and cutting cycles and revving cycles and cutting cycles. And when you hit that, you're going to be eating less than at other times during the period. So we're going to actually take you down 3 or 4 pounds lower than your goal weight or maintenance weight. And then over a few weeks, we're going to actually have you gain weight, good weight, lean mass weight back up to the weight we want to maintain at, as we get your body acclimated to eating gradually more and more. Now you've achieved that weight or that objective or that goal. So when it's done right, you can see how it's not just empty words. When we say, oh, it's a lifestyle and you apply the principles, that's all true, because you're going to apply and learn the principles as we go along. But there is actually some science and strategy behind how we make that practical. And those are all the things that you learn as you go through working with a coach. And so people will ask, well, how long will I work with a coach? And that's completely up to you. Now the other part of Pandora's box with this question is the emotional component, the personal side. When is somebody made permanent changes? And this is where, at the sake of becoming cliche, it is a lifestyle and not a diet. It's at the point where momentum, inertia is going to carry you forward. And so if you're not sure if that describes you at this point, a good self-evaluation is to ask yourself, when I fall out of routine, does momentum drag me back to a good routine of regular exercise, clean eating, et cetera, or when I get off track, does momentum just carry me further and further and further off track? Because it really doesn't matter what the scale says or where you get your body to if you're still in that cycle personally. And so that's where the motivation and the accountability and the education from a coach can really help you reach that objective.
So the question is, when you get off track, are you going to go on a bender or a mender?
Oh, there you go. Nice. Love it.
Well, I've already noticed it kind of changing like my relationship with food, to where it's like because I'm kind of eating the same thing over and over again, which is my choice because I'm weird, just to be clear. You guys give lots of options for food. Well, lots. But like I find myself like it's just like I've kind of gotten in the mindset of just like I just don't eat that. Like I mean, I still like logically want it. Like I know that I would like it if I ate it, but I don't feel like I crave it in quite the same way that I used to, and I haven't been doing it that long.
I really think the lack of sugar has made a huge difference for me because I really, really crave chocolate and sugar all the time. And since I've started with MetPro, I don't crave sugar and chocolate all the time. I mean, that is something that has never happened in my life before. So I consider if nothing else changes, that is a huge win for me.
So there's a trick to that. We'll answer that one in another question, because I know that people have those questions too. But there is a strategy behind exactly that. So
awesome! Well, that's a great teaser.
Yes, it is.
So until next time, where can people find more information about all of this?
Go to metpro.co/TCO/theclipout. So metpro.co/TCO.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Instructors in the news.
Adweek had an interesting article about 10 Peloton instructors who have evolved into their own brands.
Yes. Yeah, this is great. It's interesting to see what we've been talking about kind of, you know, put on a larger platform.
Right.
It's got Allie Love, Cody Rigsby, Alex Toussaint. You can really see that all of these instructors, you missed the continue reading.
Where is it? There it is.
Right underneath. You got distracted by Alex. You can really see these instructors have grown over time and how their platforms have grown.
Right.
Emma Lovewell, Jess King, Tunde. Also interesting is instructors like Tunde who haven't been around as long.
Totally.
I find that interesting as well.
Yeah.
But Tunde's been really, really vocal about her her feelings about things.
Yeah.
Olivia, Jess Sims, Chelsea Jackson Roberts. There's been a lot that's happened, and they've had their voices they stand out in a good way. Chase Tucker, can't forget him.
Yeah.
I think it's nice to have this highlighted. It's nice to kind of take all this and put it in one place, and it's awesome that it's a great way to see that the instructors again have grown over time, and it's not just the same instructors you hear about over and over again.
Yeah, I was surprised. I thought for sure Robin Arzon would pop up on that list, and I don't know if that's because she kind of came in as a brand.
I don't know. It's a good question.
If she's such an obvious choice, they don't feel the need to include her. It's kind of like, well, no shit. And then let's talk about the other ones. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe just because they couldn't interview her because she's on maternity leave. I mean, it could be that simple.
It could very well be. And then last week we talked about Jess Sims stopping a class, and MSNBC has an article about it and how it's a good mental health lesson.
It is, and it is a good lesson.
Yeah.
And it just cracks me up because this is article number 2.
Right.
And
2 weeks later, like they're still writing about it.
And this came out like right after we recorded last time, so I guess it's really only a little over a week, but still. But yeah, it's just a rehash of the same thing that we already talked about, that she stopped a boot camp early because she needed to listen to her body, and she's fine. She just she just knew she didn't have enough gas left in the tank. And this article takes that information and then takes it a step further by saying, hey, this is good. We need more people modeling this behavior.
Totally.
And I agree with that, by the way.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, in that case, I'm out.
Except for you.
Oh, I
Get back over here.
I was trying to model good behavior by quitting. No, because I don't actually need to.
Right.
I'm just being lazy.
See, she actually had a reason. So, no.
Okay. I guess if you want to get technical, that's different.
Thank you.
Pop Sugar had an article about Tunde.
Yeah. And, these articles are just super tiny. So it was just a good little article about her advice that she gave about keeping your advice. Make sure that you do certain things to make sure your workout doesn't loom over you all day. And the point being that she doesn't like, if you don't like to do things, get them done early. Like, do them and get them out of the way so it's not just kind of, as she put it, looming over you.
Gotcha.
And so that's what this article was about. But I guess she said something like this on a class, and people have been asking her lots of questions about it. So she then had to do an Instagram live about it, because she had to explain, like, this is what I meant. And so, it's those like kind of little throwaway comments, if you will. I'm sure it made perfect sense in her head, but people had questions like, what do you mean? Like, exercise is bad? And no, of course, exercise is not bad. But like, if it's something you dread,
right,
make a point to get it out of the way so that you can just get it done.
Right.
And you do that as soon as you walk in the door. When you have a workout planned, you go do it. Because if you don't, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I can't do it in the morning. It just, I'm not an early riser like that. But like, I normally tend to do it when I come home from work. But I do it like the second I walk in the door. And that way, because if not, if I sit down, I will keep sitting down. Yeah, that's what I'll do. And while we're talking about Tunde, Well and Good also had an article with her. Yeah, and this is an article talking about how she feels as a Black woman having shaved her head and how it makes her feel more liberated, but also more exposed. And there was a quote that she had that really stood out to me, and I'll try to read it quickly. When I revealed my short hair for the first time during my Women's History Month Peloton ride, the response was overwhelmingly supportive. So many women from the Black community said, I see you. I knew they understood what it meant to be a Black woman who was going against what society expected from them. For so long, my hair was a way for me to communicate how I wanted the world to see me. People approach me differently when I have silky, sleek style than when I do when I'm wearing locks or braids. And to put it bluntly, wearing my hair straight helps me fit in more and makes people perceive me as more socially acceptable. To cut my hair off and possibly put myself in a place where I'm less relatable to the masses was a risky thing to do. Yet, when I showed my Peloton colleague Jess Sims my chop for the first time, she cried. That was so powerful to me. So powerful. I mean, first of all, I can't even imagine feeling how that feels. It's not something that, due to me being white, I've ever had to really think about. I don't think white people a lot of times know like the impact that hair has in the Black community. And if you want to learn more, there's a wonderful documentary by Chris Rock. So it's also a fun documentary. It's not just an eat your vegetables experience, but it's called Good Hair. And it's all about the idea of like whether or not someone has quote unquote good hair and the lengths and expense that Black people, but especially Black women, will go to have quote unquote good hair. And so that will give you some more insight into just what's going on there. It also really speaks to her bravery because I mean, it's something that like, when I realized that she had done this, my first thought was just like, I could never cut off my hair. Right. And that's where that thought ended. I didn't really think about, I thought about how brave that must be from my point of view. I didn't think about it from her point of view of what that meant and those deeper meanings. And so I'm just so grateful that she speaks up and says these things and educates me along with other people. I feel very lucky to be part of a community that can do that. Then there is a wellness and beauty webinar coming up on April 29th, which will have already happened by the time this goes live, but it features Kristin McGee is playing a role. Yeah, she is going to sit down and be on the panel, and I think there's several other people that are going to be there as well, but she's going to kind of talk about the
how whenever Peloton launched their yoga program, and of course being an instructor now. So I think that's pretty cool.
And then rounding out the instructors in the news segment, Women's Health had an article about Allie Love and how she wakes up super early without an alarm clock.
Yep. She has a morning routine that she's very proud of. And basically, she's all about whether you have the sun, whether you don't have the sun, whether you have your alarm clock or you don't. Do the same things every day. You don't have to be at the things that she's doing.
Right.
They don't have to be those things, but find a routine that does work for you and that motivates you. That's the point of the whole article.
Gotcha.
So definitely check it out for some great pointers.
Peloton celebrity sightings.
So the Bull and Bear website's bullandbearmcgill.com, which is an arts and culture website.
I just like that they have a bear there.
Roar.
And
so they sat down with various people from the arts and culture world and talked to them about their fitness routines and what they like and what they don't like. And one of the people that chimed in was Sam Shepard.
Oh.
And so you might and his thing. It's funny. Other people were saying like, I like running or I like yoga, and Sam Shepard was like, I like Matty Maggiacomo.
You flew past it.
Sorry,
there it is.
There we go. And the website, it's hard to find on this website because they bolded all the other names, but they didn't bold his name.
No, they did not.
And so your eye goes right by it. So but yeah, so he talks about how much he likes Matty Maggiacomo. Like Matty Maggiacomo is his jam, and Sam Shepard is a very famous playwright. Won a Pulitzer Prize for a play called Buried Child, I think, and something like that. And then he also is an actor. You see him pop up. He was in Bloodlines. He played I think he played, was it Chuck Yeager in The Right Stuff?
Oh.
So I mean he's a working actor and a very well-known and well-respected playwright, and can't get enough of Matty Maggiacomo.
Well, I can't either. I love Matty. That's awesome.
Past guest update.
I struggled with whether to file this one under past guest update or celebrity with our fancy sweepers that we have.
That's a tricky one.
Either way, it would have worked, but I felt like Andrea Barber would have feel better being past guest update.
I think she would.
And
I think she'd be honored.
So, but I just wanted to kind of throw this out there that if you listen, a lot of people listened to her interview and they loved hearing from her, and she's on Cameo now. So if you want to, and so if you're unfamiliar with Cameo, you can for a fee, you can either message with celebrities, or you can they'll record special messages for you and whatnot. And if you reach out to her on Cameo, which is super easy to find, cameo.com/Andrea Barber.
Super easy.
And you can, and I think they're even working on, you can have live conversations with people.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah, Cameo calls. Neat.
Yeah, so if you just can't get enough of Andrea Barber, or you want to have her congratulate somebody on a Peloton milestone, I bet you she'd love to do that.
Oh my God, she would absolutely I think she'd be beside herself with excitement to do that. And she'd probably get all dressed up in Peloton gear.
I looked at some of her other videos on Cameo, and and she does like to bring in the props.
Oh.
So
I just think she's amazing.
Yeah.
I think she is one of the nicest people I have ever met.
And she'd probably go record it on her bike or something.
She probably would.
But and I will also point out, she did not ask us to talk about this.
No,
we didn't. This is not a paid commercial. Some of our things are paid commercials. I'm not going to lie, but this is not. I just saw that she was. I just saw her pop up in the ads on Cameo, and I was like, oh, we should let people know that she's out there if they want to have her record a special message, or especially a Peloton related message.
Yeah,
she's available.
That's really cool.
Peloton artist collaborations.
So there's yet another in the ever-increasing artist series over at Peloton, this time featuring Usher.
Yeah, and don't forget, Usher is going to be doing a talk with, I believe, Allie Love. I think it's this Friday afternoon over homecoming weekend. So this is obviously the beginning of a great collaboration.
Checking in with the Peloton community.
So joining us today via the magic of ZoomTube is Jennifer Price. Hi, Jennifer. How's it going?
I'm good. How are you guys?
We're good. We're good. We are really happy to have you here today, and very appreciative that you are going to share your story with us. First, I want to find out like when you first heard about Peloton, and like how did you first hear about them? Because I know it's been a while.
It's been a while. I've had Peloton for several years now. I first learned about it, funny enough, from one of my good friends. We were actually on a trip in Guatemala, and her husband was back home in Chicago and ordering up the Peloton bikes. So I was like, what's this all about? Because I'm actually a fitness instructor myself, and teach spin classes. So I was like, oh, this is interesting. So they got it, and I checked it out, and I'm like, I've got to have one of these. Even though I was a fitness instructor, I'm like, I need one of these at my house. So I started out with the bike, and then, gosh, probably almost 2 years ago, got the tread. So running is more I'm a collegiate runner, I was, and so running is more my thing. So never was a treadmill runner, but the Peloton tread has been a game changer for me. So
what about it did you feel like made it a game changer for you?
You know, the community is amazing, and just I just don't like that monotony of being on a treadmill.
Sure.
Just as I've been a lifelong distance runner, so, and from Minnesota originally, so we get out and run no matter how cold it is, but as you get older, it's like, I don't want to slip and hurt myself.
Exactly.
So,
yes.
but the tread, I just, didn't used to love just hammering out the miles on there. But the Peloton tread, with doing classes, with meeting up with people, and, you really start getting to find the same group of people, and you start pushing each other. And I really, honestly, my dearest friends that I talk to every day about all of my life challenges are a couple groups of Peloton moms and friends, and most of us have never met in person. A few of us have. We met at the Chicago Marathon, well, not last year, the year before. We had kind of virtually trained together and then met up in real life, which was fun. And the Peloton community is extraordinary, and especially right now for what we are going through. My group of ladies have been absolutely incredible. So generous, so supportive, so loving. And, it's more than the bike. Like they say, it's really an unbelievable community.
It really is. And for people out there who maybe haven't had the opportunity to meet you and they want to put a face with the leaderboard name, what is your leaderboard name so they can find you?
Positive Vibes 31.
And I'm curious how you came up with that leaderboard name.
I am big into positive vibes, positive affirmations. I think it's important, no matter what you're going through in life, to try and find something good. And, we've been through a lot of challenges. My husband and I, we have a son that was born extremely premature, and he's almost 18 years old now, but has multiple disabilities. And, we just learned together as a team that, it's much better in life if you try to pick out the good things and the positive things instead of why me and why this happened and what could have been, that sort of thing. So that's why it's important for me, so close after losing my husband, to talk about his story and share it, because I want to help other people. And we were, the type of team together that, when we were going through things, we, dug deep, and we can do things simultaneously. We're grieving and we're devastated, but we have to live for him and, keep moving forward, and especially share this message, because this is so important. Had I known about COVID psychosis and what we'll talk about soon, I still feel like he'd be here today.
Yeah, I'd never heard about it until Crystal was like, "Hey, we have a potential guest that has gone through this," and just full transparency, my first thought was like, is that really a thing? Like, I was like, let's Google this and watch some of the news stories to make sure that this is is real. You know what I mean? And so, unfortunately, it is. But I mean, like, but we didn't enter into it lightly. It was just kind of like we needed to do a little bit of investigating on our own before we put information out there. And so I guess if you,
it's shocking.
Yeah.
It's shocking that it is. It's so we're kind of getting, we should tell people what, so can you please share your story?
Yeah.
And then we'll jump in with questions as we go through.
Yes, we had never heard about this. My husband, and we took all the precautions. We took COVID very seriously. We have a son, like I said, with disabilities. So keeping a healthy home is very important. Did all the masks, social distancing. But of course, unless you're, living at home and have no interaction, you have the potential to get it. And he tested positive on a Friday. And he had been around some friends and coworkers during the week that also tested positive, but he had just received the first dose of the vaccine. So we thought as the week was going on that he might just feel a little bad because of the vaccine. I had just gotten a second dose and I was feeling a little under the weather for a few hours. So we were just thinking it was that. But by Friday, when some people he was around had tested positive, I sent him to urgent care. And sure enough, he was positive. Then in the coming days, he just was really struggling with his oxygen and breathing and just the fatigue and not even being able to really do much. And he was quarantined in a room, so he wasn't, doing anything, but he was pretty sick. So by that next Wednesday, I said, we might be having to go to the hospital. I have an oximeter, so I was checking his oxygen levels, and they were getting around 90 and sometimes dipping below, which is, that's the cutoff point really for heading to the hospital. So I called into the doctor, and he was able to get him in for what they call the BAM infusion on Thursday. And so we got that on Thursday, the next Thursday. So by that night, I was hoping that his oxygen would kind of start perking up a little bit. And I kept checking it, and it just wasn't yet. And so I took him back to the ER and went there. He got some steroids and got on an antibiotic. And then they said they thought he had pneumonia. But that's kind of, some doctors just say, well, that's just part of COVID. So then by Friday morning, he was home. He got, he wasn't admitted at the ER, but then the next morning he wasn't doing any better. And so we took him and had him admitted into a hospital where his sister works. And so she could get all the team of doctors together. And so while in there, he was getting the remdesivir, which is like a 3 to 5 day at least infusion. And so we knew he'd be in there, during that time. But, while in there, it's extremely difficult. It's not like a normal hospital stay. You are extremely isolated. Nobody can visit you. Staff isn't popping in and out because anybody that comes in your room has to first fully gown up, full, PPE. And so it takes a lot of time. So if one of his monitors was going off and he was hitting the call button, nobody would show up for like 30 minutes and get panicked, especially because, as parents to a child that spent 4 months in the NICU, we spent a lot of time listening to those and watching things on the monitors. And, that's kind of brings back some scary times. Sure. And so it was causing him a lot of anxiety. So I would call the front and be like, someone needs to get in there and please turn this off, because he was getting himself really scared and stressed out. And then while he was in there, his heart went into AFib, which is another one of those things with COVID that they're seeing. And so they can get it out of it. They started a new medication. We were trying to get him to calm down. I was having him at that time listen to his Peloton meditations while he was in the hospital and just try to center his breathing. And that was Sunday. By Monday, he seemed to be back in normal sinus rhythm. So that was good. We were feeling hopeful. He was just wanting to get out of there, but he needed one more day of his remdesivir. So I'm like, we got to just stick it out one more day. And he just kept saying, I just can't believe I'm getting more sick. I'm in the hospital getting all of this treatment, and I feel like I'm getting worse. And so on Tuesday, finally, he's like, I need to get out of here. And it was this last day. We got him discharged and brought him home and cleaned up. And, we were just really hoping in the next coming days he was going to get some energy and some strength back. And we knew it was going to be a long road because he had been obviously very sick and in the hospital. He was very weak, fatigued, definitely, a little bit cloudy at the time. But as the days went on, he got out on Tuesday. Wednesday and Thursday, he kind of tried to, we own our own business. So he would go out to work and try to just do a couple hours in the morning, and then he would come home and rest. But even then, when he would come home, he was just had so much anxiety and panic and fear, and he couldn't even pinpoint what it was. And he was talking different. His tone in his voice was very soft and just panicky, and it was just very different. And I've been with my husband for 25 years. I know when he's stressed out, when he's anxious about something. This was far different. He wasn't himself at all. And so we would lay there in the afternoons, and I would just lay with him holding his hand, and we would listen to our Peloton meditation and just try to get him to breathe and calm down and relax. And by Friday, he was feeling worse, and the anxiety was getting to be too much for him. So I called the doctor, and they prescribed a medication for anxiety. So we started that. By Friday evening, he thought that was helping a little bit. And then Saturday morning, he had another dose, Saturday midday. By the afternoon, now he was with my brother-in-law. Everybody was trying to be with him just because he was so weak and fatigued. Not that we were concerned about his mental health or anything, right, or he had made any mention that he, had any thoughts of harming himself. It was just, he was scared and panicked about things that weren't even an issue. And so he came home Saturday afternoon, and that's when it really kind of hit. My daughter was supposed to be going to a slumber party. So I told the moms, I'm like, she needs to stay home. We need to get him to relax, try and, take his mind off of things, because we just need to have one more day. Come Monday, I'm going to rattle the cages, talk to all the doctors, and we're getting a new course of action here. This isn't going in the right direction. And so we made him his favorite meal. He hardly would eat anything. He was pacing back and forth through the house. He would stare out the window, and then he would sit down and just stare out into space and just look. And you would try to talk with him, and he would just be scared. And he would say, I'm just scared. And he couldn't say it what or why. And no reassurance was enough for him. And it was just terrifying. And so I finally got him to rest on the couch. We watched a movie and snuggled up with him, finally got him to sleep, and he slept. And we, we're sitting there, my daughter and I, like, okay, he's finally resting. Got a good night's sleep, got him up to bed, got a good night's sleep. Now Sunday morning, he wakes up. We wake up early before the kids, and he's like, I feel better. That was the best I've slept. That's the best I've felt yet. Like, he seemed more vibrant. His eyes didn't seem so scared. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is, and I texted his mom and sister right away and said, I think we're turning the corner. He's feeling much better this morning. And he was going to leave the house just to go to our business to do some paperwork a few hours. He's like, that helps my mind stay busy. I'm going to just go up for a few hours and then I'll be back. And we have farm animals out there. I have donkeys and cows. And so I was going to feed my son and then meet him out there to do chores within 30 minutes. And so when I was leaving the house, for whatever reason, I looked at Find My Friends, and I noticed he was at our other farm that's a few miles away, and which wasn't a huge concern. We have cows out there. He hadn't been taking care of them. His dad had, because he's been so sick. So, it wasn't uncommon for him to go stop out there and see how everybody's doing. So I called him and just said, hey, you're out at the other farm. How's everybody doing? And he's like, everybody's great. Just checking on everybody. And I said, I'll see you back at the shop then in a little bit. And he's like, yeah, I'll see you in a bit. No inkling of any problem or concern or that anything had changed. And his dad called me about 20 minutes later. He had been doing his farm rounds and saw his truck at the farm and drove in and said, I see his truck, but I don't see him. Where is he? And I'm, right away I was like, well, maybe he's out on the RTV and looking at fencing or in the pasture and, hoping. And a few minutes later, his dad calls back and he was gone. He had found him, and it was just absolutely, it's just unbelievable. His life was wonderful. Like, he was thriving, and a lot of people go, yeah, but maybe there was something. No, it was 100% COVID. His business had never been better. Everybody in our family was healthy. Our son is doing great. Just no issues whatsoever. In fact, he was just with a friend a few weeks ago, and they were at a farm, and somebody had taken their life there years before. And he was just saying, gosh, life can be tough and life can be hard, but you can't do that to your family. That's just too much for a family to bear. And he just had this conversation with his with his friend a few weeks ago. And, everybody thought, there's no way there must be foul play. Somebody must have been out there. Right. It's not the case, unfortunately, but we know with 100% certainty that it wasn't our Ben who took his life that day. He was absolutely not in control of his brain. And we saw that. We noticed it. We didn't know what it was. And I didn't even that day until later that day, one of our friends had heard and called. And I said, was explaining what his behaviors had been like. And that's when she's like, have you heard of COVID psychosis? And I was like, no, but what is that? She sent me 3 CDC articles, and immediately after I read them said this is exactly what was happening. So I knew immediately. So
do you know, my guess is you're kind of becoming something of an armchair expert because of your circumstances. Is there any sort of indication? Is it because of a lack of oxygen? Is it the weird sounds, but the unusual mixture of the medications? Or, is there any indication as to what leads to it?
Yeah, not exactly, but it's all of those things. It's kind of the perfect storm of, what this virus is doing. And they are finding that it is crossing the blood-brain barrier, which that's a big deal. And with what's causing severe, brain problems. And the inflammation, there's a lot of inflammation, and, that is causing not only brain issues, heart issues, all sorts of things like that. And also the medication, you just don't know, you're on prednisone and steroids, and those things can cause a lot of issues as well. So it's just, I think it'll be interesting as, the actual doctors, the neurologists, and everybody starts putting their heads together on this. And that's my goal is, I've talked to numerous doctors since this, and they had no idea. They had never heard of this, which is astounding to me. Yeah. Astounding. We're a year into this, and the studies are out there. This is not a secret. If you look, the NIH has things, the CDC has things, the Mayo Clinic, this is not a secret, but it is not getting out there. And so I'm just talking to anybody. I've been in Chicago news stations. I have talked to the governor of Illinois, and, we have to get this out so that if someone comes to the hospital presenting these problems and symptoms, what is going to be the best course of action? You can't just throw them some anxiety med and say, go see a therapist. It's bigger than that.
Right.
We've got to see if part of the equation in the beginning with COVID is something with an anti-inflammatory, that sort of thing. I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but that just seems to be what's going on, where it's actually, crossing that blood-brain barrier and getting in at the cellular level and changing things. And actually some studies, like they say, is rewiring people's brains. And I've had countless people reach out since this from across the country. And I had one woman tell me her husband had this in September, and he had severe psychosis where they had to have the police in the hospital, hold him down, lock him in, just horrible stuff. That was September, and he's still not better. He's not the same.
So have there been cases of like people who've kind of come out the other side, or is it too soon, or not enough cases to kind of even suss all that out yet?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I don't exactly know if people have come out 100%.
Sure.
I know just a couple of our friends who are a month out from COVID have are having some serious brain side effects where they are not able to work. They'll go in and they try, and very dear friends of ours, smart professional businessmen, and they can't get their brains to work. They don't remember things. They can't figure out how to do their job, and they're scared. And it's so heartbreaking because, they've gone back to the doctor time and time again since this, and they don't know what to do or how to treat them. And that's what we have to change. And our governor in Illinois here has been amazing, and he was wonderful when I reached out to him. He knew our story, and his chief of staff has reached out to the president's chief of staff and his members of the COVID task force to try and get this, at the top, because this has to be a part of, we can't just continue in the triage phase of this, where we're identifying the virus, mask and social distance, and we've got a vaccination. We know all these things.
Right.
All we're talking about right now is how many people are getting vaccinated, which is great and important, but we're not talking about how this is truly impacting people's lives, and how many will just never be the same.
Were they able to do tests, like whenever Ben was in the hospital, and were they able to do anything to be able to look at now, to be able to see here might be some inkling of what happened? Like, is there anything that they can do with that?
No, and we even asked, like, with an autopsy, would they be able to look at his brain and see, but without a prior image to compare it to? They said no. But I have seen some of the studies have looked at brains after they have passed from COVID. And that's where they're seeing a lot of the inflammation within the ventricles and stuff, to say that there is proof that this is entering the brain and causing damage. And so it's scary. And I think it's going to be something that is going to continue for a long time. And we don't know how this is going to affect people, not only long term, but is there going to be other, early onset of other neurological problems down the road? It's, but we've got to be talking about this. They have to be looking into this and get, the smartest people they can to be studying this and bringing it all together, because it's all around there and it's choppy information, but we have got to put these puzzle pieces together so that doctors in these hospitals know what to do and what to look for and what's going to be the best course of action.
It's I feel like that's always been since we all found out about COVID, that's been the thing that's scared me the most, is that it's not consistent. It's not one thing that everybody gets and then they get better. It's that it varies so wildly from person to person. And as you said, there are these long consequences that we don't even know what they are. And and that's why I've been so scared of it, because I feel like there's a lot of people that don't really get that they're not really hearing that from the right people. And so I agree with you, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
And my husband was a 48-year-old former college athlete, hardworking farmer, strong, healthy, never would have thought that he would have been so sick by this. And, we have other people who aren't healthy in their lifestyles who had it and did fine. And that's the thing. This thing is a nasty, sneaky virus that you cannot predict from one person to the next how it's going to impact them. And it's scary.
It is.
Very much so. Is there, and I know that it's very new in your world, but is there, I don't know, a website, an organization? Is there something that people can do short of, besides, other than just putting it out there so they're aware of it?
Yeah, we've been sharing, and that's one of the great things about Peloton. We have so many communities on Facebook. So my friends have been sharing my news stories and things like that. So just getting like our story out there, but it's so far beyond our story. This is not an isolated incident. This is going on, no doubt, across the world, because this is a global pandemic. So people can look at that, but even if you just Google, there are so many articles on this, and it's beyond just a little brain fog for a few days, that sort of thing. You really have to be aware of, looking at your loved ones. And if you notice that they're not themselves, it's far more serious than just some brain fog. And I wish I would have known that. He would have never left my side until Monday morning came, and I could have taken him up to the Mayo Clinic and got answers. That's what we would have done. So
Wow.
I'm sure that's really hard to look back on and say, but I will also say you don't know what would have happened, and maybe something even more catastrophic would have happened if you had been there. So I just.
Yeah. And we know, my husband was a go-getter. He was the most compassionate man. He was, the larger than life guy. He has left a gaping hole in not just his family's hearts, but so many. It just, our small community that we live in Morris, Illinois is reeling, I mean, people are just stunned and so brokenhearted. And it's just not something that, if he wouldn't have come out of this 100%, his quality of life would have been really, really tough, because he lived life fast and worked hard and had his hands in so many different things. And to see people not coming out of this and being able to go back to being who they were, that's the scary part. The long-term effects for those that are still here and still struggling so many months later. It really has to get figured out more.
It does. And I appreciate you sharing and being open. I honestly, I don't even know how you're functioning, let alone, out there telling your story. I really don't. I mean, I admire that in you. I don't think that I would be able to do it. And,
you find, I think, because we have, unfortunately been through such a devastating time with, our son. He was only 1.5 pounds when he was born.
Aww.
He's many miracles. He almost left this world too many times. He's been airlifted. He's, we've almost lost him too many times to even share. So we have been through extraordinary, difficult times together. And it's something that you learn to grieve. And, every day it's a roller coaster of 1 minute sobbing and next minute pulling together and sharing the story. And, that's what we're doing because it's important. I can't just take the time to grieve and let this sit and think that other people didn't know, because I literally within hours found out about this and wish I would have known.
Yeah.
So
I get that. You kind of feel like it's your duty to let other people know, and that probably is giving you a sense of purpose that's helpful.
Absolutely. And that's, that was my husband. And we talked a lot about what if one of us, left this world at some point. We talked a lot about those things and what were the wishes for the other one. And, those are conversations that we had. And he was very adamant about being happy and living life, and didn't want the typical visitation where family has to sit for hours and, get the condolences. He didn't want to put people through that. So we had, kind of a little friends and family separate party, and then did a really wonderful and beautiful service for him and tribute. And then this summer we're having a huge celebration of life. And that's going to be, he's one of those guys that has great friends from grade school, from high school. He was a college football player. So, we're going to have a lot of people getting together, sharing stories, and, just surrounding each other with love. And one of the priests said during her service, which just was so spot on for him, is we cannot live in despair. We must live in hope. And so we've created a foundation that we're starting right now that's called Live in Hope, the Ben Price Foundation. He did a lot of charitable work. He did a lot of good deeds for people. So we're going to do this foundation and continue his mission to just do good things for people and, just keep his memory alive and keep him with us. So we miss him.
I bet.
I'm sure.
And get us that link, and we'll make sure that it's shared within our group and Facebook page and the newsletter email that goes out and all that stuff.
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. I'm sorry for the circumstances.
Me too.
But we appreciate you sharing your story with us and giving us the opportunity to help spread the word. So, if someone else finds themselves in a similar circumstance, they at least are aware of a potentiality and can take precautions. So
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys. I really appreciate it. And, just if we can get it out to just one family and it helps them, which I already know it has, it's everything for us right now.
Well, we will do our best. And I know the Peloton community is behind you, and they will continue to be behind you. And if there's ever anything we can do, please reach out and let us know. We will do it.
Wonderful. Thank you guys so much.
You have the best rest of your day that you can.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. You too.
Bye. So I guess that brings this episode to a close. Until next week, where can people find you?
People can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Crystal D. O'Keefe. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, The Bike, and of course The Tread at ClipOutCrystal.
And you can find me on Twitter at Roger Kubert or on Facebook at facebook.com/Tom O'Keefe. Find the show online, facebook.com/TheClipOut. While you're there, like the page, join the group, and of course, swing on by our YouTube channel. Watch the show in video, and you can subscribe to us while you're there as well, youtube.com/TheClipOut. So that's it for this one. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time, keep pedaling.
And running.
Clip in, set yourself free.